feel bad cutting off the credits there, interrupting my own banjo playing. Hi, how's everybody?
Good.
Thanks for coming tonight. Well, first thing, first thing that I should say is, I've been touring all around the United States with the film and in support of grassroots organizations, basically coast to coast. Gone to about 130 cities in the United States, cities and towns, a lot of which are in New York, obviously, because this is a huge and what I believe transformative proposal for New York State and Pennsylvania. I'm happy to answer whatever questions, but what I want to transmit to everyone in the room is that this is an enormous movement of people that I've seen, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people who are directly in the drilling zones, who have come together to talk about this and participate in the democratic process. And here in New York State, we have a moratorium primarily because citizens went to Albany and worked through the grassroots organizations and said, look, you really don't know what you're getting into here. And stopped the process before it started. On my drive up here, I saw a lot of those Joint Landowners Coalition of New York pass gas responsibly signs. Saw a few no fracking signs, but I saw more of those. And they all say, pass gas. Funny slogan. But they also say responsible drilling. And, I want to emphasize that in my travels, I haven't seen any attempt by these companies to be responsible for what they're doing whatsoever. In fact, I've seen the opposite. I've seen companies actively deny the facts of the film, and I'm happy to talk about any of the challenges that the American Natural Gas Association or Energy in Depth or whoever it is that may have been out there attacking the film. I'm happy to address all of those points, which we also address at our website. And they attacked the New York Times for taking a look at the wastewater that's radioactive. It's being dumped into rivers and streams in Pennsylvania without any regulation. And they attacked the Pulitzer Prize winning journalism website ProPublica for their investigative series that showed thousands of cases of water contamination across the country. And they attack the families in the movie and say things like, well, they're working for the Wind Association, the wind energy companies, which of course couldn't be further from the truth. So, I'm here, I know I'm in the middle of debate territory, and I'm happy to deal with that and talk about all the ways in which the gas industry is behaving like the witches in Macbeth. They're telling a little piece of truth, and that conceals a big, big lie. The witches said to Macbeth that he's going to become the king, and he gets all excited, but they don't tell him that he's going to have to kill all these people on the way there, and he's not going to sleep anymore, and he'll end up dead in 2 days. They leave that part out. So when the gas industry says things like, well, we're not exempt from the Safe Drinking Water Act, well, of course it means the law doesn't apply to them, but they're asserting that they were never actually exempted from it, that they never had to pay attention to it at all. Of course, that's also not true. And there are all sorts of ways that these tricks of language start to give them a position that is created by lawyers, but is exactly like those kinds of statements. You're going to be the king, So let's talk. I'm happy to have like an open discussion about this evening, because I know that there's a debate all over here. I've been doing my best to focus as much as I can on New York and Pennsylvania, although the film has just kind of gone crazy and belongs to the world and I keep chasing around. But it is really my concern that for those of you who are against this drilling, that you have the right information, that you have the correct way to combat those arguments. I'm happy to talk about that. And for those of you who may or may not have seen the film before, who believe that drilling should happen, I'd like to challenge that and say there is something happening here, which is on the level of an international scam, and it isn't one that's pretty, and we can talk about that. So, I mean, I generally want to have this be like a kind of a moment where we can talk to each other, and talk among the community, and I can do my best with the experience that I've had to impart information about what's happened since the movie opened. I mentioned, 120 city tour. That was in support of Grassroots. It also played on HBO, 2 different runs to several million people, 5 million people. It's on Netflix, the DVD is out. It's nominated for the Oscar. Which was its own surreal chapter of all this. But so why don't we, I don't know if the expectation was for me to talk or just go straight to Q&A. I can certainly do either one. Yeah, let's start with questions.
It's a great movie, and
Thanks.
a lot of the folks that you went to their homes and heard their problems and stuff, and they had gas bills in their front yard. Did most of those folks, had they signed gas leases?
Well, it's different in different areas of the country. So in Pennsylvania, chances are you own the surface, you own the mineral rights. That's not 100% true. And in the West, the norm is more of a split estate situation, which means when you own the land, you own the surface. And then someone else, 100 years ago, or Chevron, or the railroad, or a big energy company, owns the mineral rights, and you never own them. And you might not even know that you didn't own them, because you'd have to look in your deed, and it's very tricky, actually. There are mineral rights searches that are happening right now all over Arkansas, because people don't know who owns what minerals where. But if the gas company asserts that they own them, they can show up on these people's front porch and say, by the way, we're the gas company, we own your mineral rights, we're drilling here starting next week. And the citizens would have no say in it and have no knowledge of what to do about it, and all of a sudden they're bulldozing their fences. Or they're putting the gas well 100 feet from their front porch, without any consultation. So, I left that issue of who signed leases and who didn't sign leases alone. There's another film that's great about it called Split Estate, which goes into that more in depth. So it felt like that was sort of covered out there in the world. But at the same time, it is a very kind of complex situation state by state. So people in Pennsylvania, those folks in Dimock you saw, they signed leases. They signed for $50 an acre. They were told that they were just doing speculation and they probably wouldn't even drill near them, and that it was just free money. And in Pat Farnelli's case, they gave her the exact number of her next mortgage payment for her signing bonus, and she was behind. And that's of course something you could easily look up. So it really depends community by community and how much information is there, and what kind of. It really has nothing to do with the value of the gas. It has to do with what they think people will sell for, will sign for, and that's the way they price it.